Hey guys, welcome to day 3 of Vlogmas, and for today I thought I'd talk about my first band. I've technically been part of, I'd say, 3, maybe 4 bands. It depends on how you think of it, and I'll explain in just a sec. More often than not, I've been in things that I'd call projects, which is just like working with 1, maybe 2 other people, and it's not a case of like you all get together and play music together. It's more things of like I would write a piece, send it off to someone, or we would sit together and write out a melody and do it like layer by layer. I kind of view it as those as different things. My kind of thought of being in a band is performing together, not necessarily live, which is something that, like in front of an audience, which is something else I'll get to, but like actually playing your instruments or your parts at the same time and all that kind of thing. So this is why technically my first band would be a group that I had with my brother, cousin and a friend of ours, and we called ourselves Various Artists, and we did hip-hop tracks. And the reason why I don't really class that as a proper band is because that was one of those ones where like one person would come up with the music and then another person would write a vocal, and it was a very strange thing because it was mainly us 4, but it wasn't always us 4 as part of the song. The whole reason why we kind of called ourselves Various Artists because it was based on the idea that any of us could be on any track and not always all of us. So one track could be one of us, and another track would be 3, and all this. And we also based it on who was doing the writing of it, or like the music creation and the lyric writing and things like that. For my part of it, I think I was more of a sounding board, in all honesty. I did some guitar parts to it. In terms of like beat generation and all that, I was more of a sounding board, and I would also help out with lyric writing. I can't remember if I actually recorded any vocals for any of it, but it was just a fun little project. But because that was one that isn't a case of like we stood together and performed the stuff together, that's why I don't quite count it as a band, even though it kind of was. So my first band, and this is a technicality in a way, was me and one other person. And technically this works. I probably wouldn't have thought of it in the past. I think I counted it at the time, but later probably thought it didn't quite count, because I always thought that it'd be, for a band, it'd be like you have to have a vocalist, a drummer, a guitarist and a bassist for like a stereotypical general rock band. And this was just me on guitar and drums, and that was it. We didn't even have a name. Going back, probably the reason why I'd count it more as a band now is with looking at the likes of Royal Blood, where you got 2 members making all the music. Admittedly they had a singer and we didn't at that time, and plus it's not uncommon for it to be that kind of setup, but I think at the time I was very narrow-minded that you had like a 3 or 4 piece band that was this certain model. But that's where I wrote my first guitar riff, or at least the first one that I still remember. I can't remember coming up with any riffs before that, maybe just kind of general basic chord progressions. I did more lyric writing, which I guess you could count more as poems really, because I didn't have any music for it to go to or any music in mind when writing it. So but I came up with that first riff, and I know we came up with a couple of others, and those ones I can't remember, but our main kind of thing was we covered She's Got Issues by The Offspring, among a couple. I think we did a couple of other covers, but that was the one where we actually played it in front of some kids at school, the music teacher there knew that we were doing this, so they called us out to perform in front of the kids. So we did, and then we did it again, I think, to another class as well. And that disbanded because it was coming to the end of school, and Jack, the drummer, wanted to go off and pursue something a bit more likely to turn out to be a career, which upset me greatly at the time, but I can completely understand where he's coming from. So that was that little thing. Again, kind of a technicality, but more of a band than, or at least in the model that I view bands, I guess. I think I'm just being a bit strange, but that would have been what I'd probably class as my first band. What would be my first proper band, bear in mind I have like 3 or 4, was one that went through several names and a couple of different lineup changes. We were together for 2 years, I think it was. 2, maybe 2.5. I think our first band name was Samurai Gary, and then we changed to the Sideshow Expression. There was something else in the middle of it, and the last name we had was Caution, This Box Contains the End of the World. And this was kind of at the height of the whole post-hardcore thing with Funeral for a Friend and the likes. So we were down that route, and sadly, because we had our main lineup changes was to do with like vocalists. So I gave it a go at first, and I just really wasn't practiced as a vocalist, and I really was not practiced at playing guitar and singing at the same time. So I just dropped back to guitar, and I can't remember if we got someone in between or if there was a big gap. But we had our friend Stato come in to do vocals, and sadly, for the most part, whenever we did like our little cover songs, he did great, but he had a lot of writer's block when it came to lyrics, and I guess we were probably a bit stingy or mean, or I don't know, but we very much classed it as that's your job to write the lyrics, and there would have been nothing wrong with us writing lyrics. So I don't quite know why we had that stance, but so yeah, we didn't actually end up with any songs that were like fully formed with vocals, but we recorded a couple of demos and I've still got them. I've got every idea that we came up with in at least tab form, and it's about 25 ideas, and I've held on to them, and I said this to them when we ended up breaking up. We ended up breaking up because the place that we practiced, they had a refurb, and they kept our gear there, and they said it would take 2 or 3 months. So we came back, and I said, yeah, it's not been done yet, 2 or 3 months, and then it'll be ready. We came back then, and then they turned around and said, oh, we decided we're not going to let anyone practice there now. And that was like the last place we had to practice in our area. So we kind of had to force ourselves to disband as we had nowhere to go. But when we did, I said, I asked their permission. I said, I want to keep hold of these tracks because one day I want to do something with it. And that is one of the many things that I have planned, is to flesh out these songs and actually release them, or at least like get the best of them and release them in some kind of way, because it could just be a nostalgia thing, but they hold a very special place in my heart. And I think it could very well be that that was where I first consider myself to have developed my own kind of not style, I guess, but it's where I learned to write riffs and song progressions and all that, like the first proper time that I really concentrated on it. Whereas I tried before, but it was just like, yeah, I get this comes out, yep, and do that, and it was just very sloppy in the way that I did it. Whereas this was a project that I really concentrated on what I was doing, which might sound like a bit of a slur towards various artists or whatever, and it's not meant to be in that way, but I don't know. So that's the one that I would class as my first proper band, and one of the band after that, and like I said, I've had projects, and I continue to look for projects to do with people now. That is the story of I like the fact that so far with both videos I've gone, here is the subject. By the way, this covers a wide variety of things. So I apologise if that's kind of a misdirection or something. But that is that little story of my life. Do please feel free to ask me any questions about it that I've not covered or anything else. Further suggestions for these videos as well. Always welcome. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.